Oh, okay.
Well, I am pleased to have, is it doctor or just pastor?
It's just pastor.
Pastor Russell Allan Reed with us today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh, and not many people notice that I have the joy of having Pastor Reed's two daughters in my congregation, Janie and Kirsten. Kristen, I get it wrong. How do you tell me? You give me the definitive.
Okay. All right. What is it?
What's
What's
the
the
what's the
question?
what's the definitive first name pronunciation?
Kristen.
Kristen. See, I
Yeah.
knew it was that. So we have a connection. I was talking with some fellows around the campfire the other night. One of them was your son-in-law, John,
Okay.
and he
Yeah.
was telling me your story as you became a pastor, and it was so interesting. I just thought people should hear about it. So could you
Oh,
break it? He started it off with talking about how you began to date your wife,
right.
and things kind of started changing. I mean, could you just talk through your story a little bit? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. First of all, on my end of things, I didn't grow up in well, we didn't go to church. There was an interest in Bible and things that I got a couple of them from my parents for Christmas and things, which I still actually have. But as far as a strong interest in the Christian faith, there wasn't really, much at all, involved with that. So anyway, I went to school and my predominant interest was philosophy, really, and art. And so I kind of I really enjoyed that stuff. I immensely actually. And then eventually I met Sherry, and she was going to Missouri Synod Lutheran Church there in El Dorado, Kansas, and I dated her, and we started dating, and we got married and everything. And she would still go to church. She would always invite me. Usually I had a reason or excuse why I didn't go. So I kind of I him-hawed around for a while, I was pretty headstrong about what I thought and what I believed and stuff, but I never ridiculed her. She was very involved, and actually that kind of, well, I don't know, impressed me. She stayed involved teaching Sunday school, vacation Bible school, things like that, and she just invite me every Sunday, even though she kind of knew what my answer was going to be. And
How,
so
how
anyway,
old how old were you both at this time?
I would have been 23, 24, and we're close to the same age. I don't think she'd like me to say that she's a little older.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
by not much, but anyway, so anyway, I finally did go with her, and it really interested me because what little background I really did have was going to Baptist churches, and I don't know, there was something even when I went to Sunday school in the Baptist church that just didn't resonate with me, and actually having liturgy, Pastor Holtz at our church, having
Hmm.
a standard liturgy in our worship, my gosh, that just that just connected with me so deeply. And I love the ritual, the rite. I
Okay.
enjoyed that part of it. So, yeah. So that's kind of how that all got started.
And you started going to church fairly regular. And how long between when you started going to church fairly regular and then you were headed off to seminary?
Well, it might be first to sit and say how long it took me to actually join.
Okay. All right.
I was going every Sunday for a while, and Pastor Holtz used to love to introduce all the guests. We're a small congregation, so he would always point out, we've got some guests with us here today. And he asked me one day, he says, have you ever thought about taking confirmation class? And I said, are you going to quit introducing me? And he said, well, yes. And I said, well, I like your introduction, so I kind of like all the attention. So he quit introducing me. So anyway, he quit introducing me. So I guess I joined then. I decided took confirmation, adult instruction, and then
Hmm.
let's hear that would have been in 80. Oh goodness gracious, 86. Time Brian was born, I guess. Um, I think 86, 87 maybe. And then I had talked to Pastor Holtz probably about 1990 about just just kind of threw it out there. He about dropped. I met him at the donut shop. I actually ran into him. I didn't meet him there, and I just said, I asked him. I said, "Hey, you know what?" He said, "What would it take to, go to seminary? What's all involved with all that?" And I thought he was going to drop his coffee and his donuts right there. Anyway, so it was about 1990, and I'd been going to church, regularly for about 7, 8 years, and Bible class for that matter. But it took me, like I said, about 4 or 5 years to get it through my head that I could join.
Okay.
I was hard headed. I was hard headed.
So if I can kind of get the timeline right, that you started going to church, you went to church for about 4 or 5 years, became a member, and then what? Shortly after that, decided you were going to go to seminary. About 2 years after that.
Yeah, well, I was having difficulty with my job. I was very dissatisfied with my bosses at the time. My bosses were probably dissatisfied with me. I don't know, they were asking me to do some things that I didn't feel were in keeping with my Christian faith, which I
Mm-hmm.
proclaimed. I was a boss to people, and I don't want to say too much.
Sure, well, that's fine.
Right, yeah, but they were asking me when you're higher up in somewhat in business, and they want you to deal with your employees in a way that I just didn't was not comfortable with doing. And I started looking at other options for careers, and I just was curious. I love to study. I'm a student all the way through. I still am today.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get enough of studying stuff. I'm just constantly in books and of all sorts of different topics. I mean, I like mathematics, art. Janie loves mathematics. My daughter,
Mm-hmm.
that's her master's, and I'm a math nut. I just love that stuff, along with art and everything else. So anyway, that that's why I thought maybe I could do something like that, and I just didn't know what it would take. And to Pastor Holtz's credit, man, he so discouraged me. I loved it. He sat there, he says, "You got three little kids. What do you think you're doing?"
Yeah.
And he sat there and said, "Man, you got to learn that Greek and that Hebrew." And I don't know, he's kind of scared me some, which was good. I
Yeah.
I, I really liked that. And anyway,
I
yeah,
think there has been. I think you're exactly right. Maybe well-meaning people, or time periods. We've looked at the dearth of men in ministry, and by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but it's kind of the hopes of coming out of this is just maybe to encourage other men to think about, realize that there is no one specific path to pastoral ministry. There's a lot of different ways people get there, and to encourage guys just to think about pastoral ministry. But
right,
I think sometimes on the flip side of that, there are some. Not that I would ever consider myself worthy of the position, but I think there probably are some things that we need to be able to do. Some characteristics that we need to have, and sometimes that doesn't always happen. And a pastor's probably right in maybe throwing up some roadblocks at first and seeing if you're really interested, you really mean it, you really want it.
right. Oh, yeah. I like I said, I so appreciated the fact that he approached it the way he did. And it's not like I'm one of those people that sits and says, if you're gonna push at me and tell me no, well then I'm gonna want to do it. I'm not that kind of person.
Right.
But he just laid out the fact of how tough this was going to be, and he mentioned how tough it was for him. And he was a pastor too that took the job very the vocation. I really should say it that way.
That's okay. Yeah, I
Position,
understand.
very seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, so much that he never married. He was a bachelor his entire life, and but he saw himself in many ways married to the church.
Yeah.
He said not literally, not in the Roman Catholic sense, but
Mm-hmm.
very much he saw himself though his position that way. So he took it very seriously, and he really shared that with me, that seriousness.
Yeah.
I thought, man, blessings to you, man.
So you decided to go off. I don't know this about you. Did you go off to St. Louis or Fort Wayne?
St. Louis. A lot of the reason for that was part of it was just being closer back to family. Sherry's folks lived there where we were living in El Dorado, Kansas, and my folks lived about an hour southwest of Kansas City. So it was
Oh,
just for us was going to make a whole lot more
sure.
sense. for us to get back with the kids so that they could see their grandkids. So some of it was just practical, really. But we visited the St. Louis Seminary in 1990. Really loved the campus,
Yeah,
and
you,
the
you
people I
can't beat
met.
the St. Louis campus. It's actually, isn't it? It's modeled to look like Princeton, right? Is that right, or is it Yale?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just very beautiful, and it's picturesque in the big city, and it's
Right.
great.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just like it, looking like it does like Princeton. I just kind of felt like I was in Europe. I kind of loved it that way.
It's no, you're right. It's surprising how much it does. You're exactly right. It has that feel to it. I think very much so. In fact, St. Louis Seminary. I don't know if you know this one. I used to give tours of the seminary, and it has St. Louis Seminary has I think an interesting record. When they opened the seminary, the opening ceremonies, a biplane flew over, and was
Oh,
one of the very first flyovers for an event that ever happened.
oh my goodness.
And
No,
now
I
it's
did not know
commonplace
that.
to have flyovers, of like football games, Super Bowls, things like
Right.
that. But yeah, they had a biplane fly over the seminary commencement ceremonies.
Oh, that is awesome. No, I
Yeah,
did not know that.
yeah, it was pretty. I the only reason I knew is because I was part of learning the tour guide shtick. When you toured people
Right.
around. So,
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
so after seminary, where was your first call?
My first call was to Britain, South Dakota. Well, let me step back a little bit.
Sure.
My vicarage kind of set me up for my first call. My vicarage was to Towner, North Dakota, about an hour south of the Canadian border
No
there.
kidding.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I've been
where
to
I.
Towner. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
oh
from North
yeah,
Dakota. Yeah, I know all those
yeah.
places.
Right on Highway 2.
Yes.
I know. We were. That's where I was assigned at for my vicarage. I was, of course, going to have to, do ministry there pretty much myself. I was preaching every week, and we had a pretty rough winter, cold wise. I think it was only 60 inches of snow, but you're talking a Kansas boy here. You know what I mean? This was a
Only
whole new
60
world.
inches.
Yeah, I know, man. What is that? And so anyway, we lived through that year there. Went a lot to Canada because it was more open then. That was '90s, so
Right.
pre 911. Anyway, so we made a lot of trips into Canada. Saw a lot of stuff up there in Manitoba. Anyway, we realized that hey, this was okay. We managed. We lived up north. It was all right. So when we came back and had our interview, one of the questions that was asked to Sherry and I about placement where would you be, kind of like willing and open are you to being placed at?
Right.
And I said we would go back north, and the only Sherry was the only one a little more reticent. Maybe that's why we ended up in South Dakota, not North Dakota. was
Because
because
North Dakota's cold, but South Dakota is just filled with beaches and
yeah, there you go, palm
tropical
trees.
islands, and yeah,
Go pick your pineapples and coconuts.
yes, because it's south.
Right, right. So it sounded closer south, and so that way we could get back to Kansas a little easier than it was. Where we were at North Dakota was a long trip, up there just east of Minot. That was a long drive to try to make, back to Kansas. And so going
Yeah.
that far north, I think was an issue for Sherry, maybe more than me at the time. But I recognized that she was right in that one. She really was. Anyway, Britain, South Dakota, St. John's Lutheran was my first placement. Yeah, 95. In 95.
And you served now. How many churches have you served at now?
Well, really two. But I was serving for 6 years. I served, which is now closed actually, Peace Lutheran Church of Hecla, which was west of Britain by about, I think, about 30 miles, 30, 35 miles. I served them every Sunday as it wasn't technically a vacancy pastor, but I served them, gave them, I did funerals, weddings, and things for them for about 6 years. And I think they just closed here about is it 3 or 4 years ago, I do
Mm.
believe. But I did serve there, and that was like I said, I wasn't it wasn't really a called position at the time, but I gave pastoral care to them and their members.
So at 95, you've been in ministry now for what, 30,
25 years.
25 years? That is great.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
your current congregation, you've been here for a while?
Yeah, I've been here at Emmanuel in Brownton now for it'll be 15 years in December of this year.
Does it feel like
Yeah.
it's been 15 years?
No, it absolutely has not. It don't
It's
even feel like I've been in the ministry 25 years.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. Laura and I have been here for 5 years, and it doesn't feel like it's been. It just feels like it's just been like that, not 5 years. It goes by so fast.
Oh, it's crazy. I think it even gets more so just kind of like old people. Older, I like that term better. Older people like to talk about it. It is really true. It just kind of moves along with age.
Yeah. I always thought it was so funny when I was a kid. I used to just watch the clock tick around at school. I just wish time would go faster. And
Yeah,
now I just wish the clock would slow down or stop. It just can't. The time just keeps slipping out of my fingers every day. Especially when it comes
right.
to ministry, I'm just amazed at how much stuff has happened, and it just feels like it's been a moment. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Isn't it? It's hard to even explain it in my view, but and like you said, I've had this predominant interest in time. Also, it's kind of funny. My dad was a watchmaker, and
Oh wow.
oh yeah, I've got some of his old watches and stuff. And uh, I had my first wristwatch. What was it? It was a Seiko automatic. I still got it. I got it when I was in second grade. Still runs. I have just been fascinated with timepieces, and some of the stuff I like to read are some of the things. What is it? Theologian Oscar Kuhlman. He doesn't always.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't. His stuff. I would argue there's some problems with some of the stuff he's written, but there is this one book on what is it? Christ and let me read it on my Christ and Time. I got it up there on my library
That
shelf.
sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and actually, Bill Weinrich from Fort Wayne told me, him and I were having a neat conversation one day, and Kuhlman was actually his doctoral thesis supervisor over was it Basel? University over there. And what he told me, if there was a book of Kuhlman's to read, it was Christ and Time. And
Hmm.
I thought, man, that's right down my line,
Yeah, that
And
actually sounds fascinating.
I haven't even finished it yet. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I have a couple other questions for you. If you would, is there? I mean, kind of maybe drawing that conversation to a close in terms of your personal journey towards ministry. Um, did you ever think, even when you were a kid or a teenager, or maybe when you were in your 20s, that you were going to end up where you ended up?
No, not at all. I've been like so shocked. In
Yeah.
fact, some of the people who knew me back when are really shocked. It's so funny. It's like, you're what?
Yeah.
You do what for a living? And it's like, oh, well, yeah. Well, the Lord can do just about anything He wants to do,
Right.
apparently.
One of the strangest things that I've noticed lately is interacting with my brothers and sisters.
Uh huh.
Because they've gotten to the point now where they start, we'll be meeting for Thanksgiving, and they'll be maybe having some drinks, and they'll kind of wonder if, like, is he gonna have a drink? Is he too good to have a drink? Is he
Right.
too holy to have a drink? It's like, and I just never thought that, they people start to look at you different, or they never would have considered that you could have done this thing.
Right.
It is very strange, but I've always felt that whatever weird, different, or difficult things come out of ministry, it's so worth it, because I can't think of anybody who has the blessing that I do, that I know there's 300, 250 people every night who, when they say their prayers at night, they pray for their pastor. They pray for me. You
There you
know,
go.
and there's more blessings than that. I get to handle the Lord's body and His blood and give it to people. I bet you there are people out there who maybe worked their whole lives and they went down a career path because that's what they had to do. But I bet you
Right.
somewhere in the back of their mind, they thought to themselves, when they were sitting in church as faithful members their whole lives, they probably thought to themselves, boy, I'd sure like to get up there and preach the gospel just once. And I get to do it every day, every
Right. There you
Sunday.
go.
Yeah, I mean, so there are some drawbacks to ministry, but I think the benefits way outweigh the drawbacks.
Personally for me, I think it's been a case. I've got many. Well, I got many hobbies. I guess some call them hobbies. I mean, I enjoy doing theater. I draw, I paint. I actually can make use of some of these skills in many ways in doing ministry, which for me seems to fit well, for in what I do. And so, again, as part of fitting into a vocation, like you said, I just absolutely enjoy what I do here with this. This isn't work. This is indeed just it's an absolute love of being able to share the gospel message in this way, and my in a way my personal Christian faith comes out in even doing the vocation that way. And I mean, what better thing can you ask for, in a vocation that way? I don't think you could ask for much more.
No, it's like I said, it's amazing that we get to do it. Not many people get to do it when you really think about it. It's a
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
amazing thing. So, actually, since you brought it up, I kind of want to maybe go after that for a minute, and
Okay.
you let me know when we're getting low on time, okay?
Right. Yes. That's
Um,
right.
uh, I have been the beneficiary of some of your artwork. One of
Oh,
your
yeah.
pieces hangs in our church, and not
Right.
many people know
Right.
that. And so I'm curious, did you study art then, or is it just something you've done kind of as a hobby?
Both. I've drawn pictures ever since I was about 5 years old. I started off with cartoons, and then I started working on people. People have been the predominance of almost everything I've drawn. Not everything, but a lot of it. A lot of my subject matter is human beings, and so I did study art. That was a focus for me when I was in college, and so yeah. I do have a background in it, but a lot of it was just natural. I mean, I just developed it, practiced it on my own, and copied things that I saw. That was the greatest way for me to learn, was just copying.
Right.
I would others' works and stuff. So, and then that developed into a later thing where I got involved with theater. I was a very introverted person, and then I got involved with theater. My parents, I think mom and dad were worried that I was so artistic that I was going to be this hermit person that never would talk to people. And people look at me and they go, "Gosh, you were ever like that?" And I go, "Well, I guess I was." Mom and dad were worried about me, so what they did is they made me go out for theater, and I found out, shoot, I can talk to people when I'm somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So a lot of that stuff is just kind of grown out of the experiences I've had in life, and anyway, yeah. So
It must be a nice outlet for you to be able to do that as well. I mean, not only the process of creating it, but also um, the result, like the actual product, must be nice to have too. I especially like um, all the pictures you've done of your grandchildren.
oh yeah, yeah. My favorite subject.
Well, I mean, rightly so. Uh,
Right. I worry though if I keep having grandchildren, I'm going to start running out of time. They're going to start being somebody's going to get short shifted here.
well, I mean, I guess that's a possibility. I don't know if I'd worry about it too much.
I doubt they feel that way though. They appreciate it. I know they do.
My father was trying to build a piece of furniture for every one of the kids.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he actually ended up not being able to get it to get it all done. But all the kids, he was going to make a cradle for each one of the kids, and he didn't end up doing that. But we all ended up getting a piece of his furniture before it was all said and done. You don't know it, you can't see it right now, but I'm actually putting some of your pictures next to you as we're recording here, so that people can see your work. Yeah. So this one right here is a picture of his eldest granddaughter, London, and it's a good one. If you know London, it's very, very accurate. So.
Is it the one where she's just awake in the morning, the latest one?
Yeah, morning. Yeah, and I was just like, it was so good. I just saw it the other day. It just made me think of you. So I was like, I'm going to put that on there so people can see how good he is at it. Maybe we can. I have a quick couple of in-line ones I'm going to ask you real quick, but I wanted to ask you 3 questions that probably are. What do you see as your greatest challenge in ministry right now?
Probably, specifically right now in this COVID era, all the help I'm having to give with, administrative kind of things, know. That's really not my long suit, even though I'll be honest about it, I can do it. I was in business for 10 years, and I know how this all works, so I can help people. I can help treasurers. I know all this stuff, but that isn't what I enjoy doing. In fact, I don't think it's what my vocation as pastor is about. But you got to do the stuff,
Yeah.
So that would be my greatest challenge. Is okay. All right, got to get myself motivated to do that, a little bit.
If I may be so bold, I might say, from knowing you, the little bit I've had an opportunity to talk to you, and from what your daughters have told me too, I think your greatest assets are in people skills, not necessarily messing around with technology or doing meetings thing. Like you have great, and I don't mean that just as a simple idea, but like person to person, personal management skills, interacting with people. Not everybody has them. And I feel the same way you do too, is that my greatest skills and ability are interacting with people in person, and right now that's just been stripped away.
Right. Absolutely. It's like you're starving for a human being to be sitting across from you.
Exactly.
Even if it's just in your office.
Yes. Yeah, actually this afternoon I went out and sat with a member, and we sat in her garage about 8 feet apart on lawn chairs. We spoke to each other, and boy, was that a nice conversation. It was so necessary. I needed it. I don't think she even realized that I probably needed it more than she did.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been hard over here in Minnesota. We've got shelter in place going on. So technically, we can't even do that. We're not supposed to be doing that. And that's making it more difficult. I'm hoping that's going to get opened up here, I don't know, a little bit. That we should hear something from the governor at the end of the week. But you're right, though, that kind of interplay with real live people, is gosh, I'm missing that.
I kind of worry, too, that I'm a little bit of a physical touch person, and I'm that kind of guy. I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to that. I'll have to change a lot of who I am now to adjust to people. People are, I think, going to have a lot of apprehension even after we come out of this lockdown. They're still going to be apprehensive about shaking hands, about hugging, about anything like that. It's going to be I think it's going to be an adjustment for all of us.
It is. It's going to be. I'd be surprised if it doesn't really take it'd have to be a solid year of things going good, I think, to change some of that. You know what I mean? For people to start feeling. But I think it'd have to be a good solid year of no trouble with the virus, that kind of stuff. No reoccurrence. Yeah. And you're right. And if there is a reoccurrence, or, again in the fall or something, like some are talking about, well, then that's going to shove this back even farther, in terms of how people interrelate with one another. There's going to be some key things here that are going to be missing for a while.
And I don't mean to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I do firmly believe that this is kind of, I think we should see all sin as the work of the devil. I think he's really trying to pull us apart,
Right,
because the bonds that kind of pull us together as Christian people. Of course we have Christ, and of course we have the Word. We can listen to services online, but when we're isolated, we are
right,
vulnerable. And that's
right,
that's not a good place to be. I wish that we could be together, but I do understand why we're doing what we're doing.
right. Absolutely.
What is your greatest joy in ministry? I mean,
Oh my
now, in the
God.
past, in the future, what's your greatest joy?
Oh, my greatest joy at ministry, though, I probably the two things I love to do the most is do Bible class and preach. I just enjoy those two things the most. Teaching my confirmation kids is fun too, but I don't know, Bible class and those things. Those are the things engaging my people that way. Is well, yeah, is where probably the greatest amount of enjoyment is. I like one-on-one visits or group visits, but I don't know. There's just something more that sometimes comes out of being able to do Bible class and stuff. So, and I enjoy Sunday morning preaching. I can really get into it, sometimes.
Well, I've seen one of your sermons at least at your daughter's wedding, so I
Oh,
know what you're talking about. I've seen it
okay.
firsthand.
Oh, thanks.
I'm curious. What do you think in this kind of in these years that lie ahead of us, in this era that we're going into? What do you think is maybe the right now developing as one of the greater opportunities in ministry? And
Oh,
that's wide open. Just what do you think?
coming out of this COVID era
No,
thing,
just
you're
I
talking,
mean,
or
well,
just
maybe, but just in
yeah.
general, going into the future, what's an opportunity, a great opportunity in ministry you think that's available to us right now?
Well, here is something I have thought for a long time. To be honest, that this what we're going through with COVID era here, if you can call it that. I'm just throwing words out there, but in this COVID era, I've often thought one of the greatest things that's been missing from the faith life of our peoples and families was that their faith would be seen as something of their home. And there's been nothing to really press this issue for the people that they had kind of put all their faith. This is a personal thought, so it could be wrong, but
Go ahead.
that they put all their faith into an institution,
Mm-hmm.
to handle. Basically, I do church at church, but when I'm away from church, I don't have to do church.
Right.
And I've struggled with this my whole time in ministry, watching this happen. And I've always thought in the back of my mind, the Lord needs to do something to change that environment, to make something different out of this. And if there's anything I think I have seen happen in this month and a half that we've been going through this so far, is I've seen some families taking in my devotions online that I've been doing. They've been doing stuff at home with the Bible. Kids get to see parents open the scriptures. The best teachers. I mean, the kids may love me. That's great. But parents, you're going to set the example for the kids.
Yeah.
Here's what they're going to like or not like. And, getting this back into the home while at the same time not losing that desire that we have for a greater gathering, which is, of course, around the body and blood of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and the preaching of the word in the church. And so I see this as opportunity. And I told my people that the first time I did an online thing, well, similar to this or
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Live, as I said, man, we got opportunities here. I said, this is just hitting big. And we just need to recognize what they are,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I think it's a great chance. And I wouldn't blame the Lord for keeping this going a little bit longer. I sad to say. I mean,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want anybody to be infected. Get me.
Mm-hmm.
My kids worry about me. And Sherry and some of the others too. But when I see what can be accomplished in this, I'm like, gosh, this is let's Lord, let's let it happen with your people. Let's deepen and enrich their faith. It's kind of like what I've been mentioning to my members here. I mean, I've offered, for instance, private communion, small group. I've really only had a couple of families take advantage of it because partly because maybe it's the way I preached about it. I've said, why not just let's take this like a long road to Emmaus. Let's deeply enrich ourselves and let the Lord enrich us about who we're communing with.
Mm.
Let's just make this a long trip to deepen so that when we do finally come and the Lord says, and he wants to go on, and we're going to sit and say, no, come, Lord Jesus, be our guest.
Yeah.
Anyway, just some of my thoughts.
No, it's great. You're exactly right. The history of Israel was one where they only went to temple, 7 times a year? And then all the rest of the education was supposed to happen at home. You're exactly right. So there is this, we gather together and worship, but there also should have been this teaching and learning that went on at home. And you're right. I think we've kind of lost that. And we need to get it back.
Yeah.
Our kids are inundated from sources all around them and from the world, and pastors 1 hour a week is not going to be enough to develop defenses for those children to kind of hold on to their faith through all the rigmarole they're going to be put through.
Yeah, we can't put enough antibodies in them to fight off the virus.
You brought it around.
Yeah. That 1 week of healthy medicine, 1 hour of healthy medicine. Right? Anyway.
All right. Okay. I got some rapid fire for you.
Okay.
Your favorite book?
Of the Bible, or just a book in general?
Both.
Oh, both. Favorite book of the Bible is probably, for me, is the Gospel of John.
Okay.
It's my favorite book. I think he's real artistic and stuff. Now, as far as the faith, I think he is. He's artsy. He's for the already catechized Christian and just going to deepen that a little bit. That's
Amen.
my view of John. Yeah.
John probably writes his gospel thinking you've read all the other ones already.
Exactly. That's my personal thought. So
right.
I'm going to deepen you a little bit.
Exactly.
Anyway, my other, I don't know. I have some other books I've read. I enjoy. I like reading some strange stuff. I mean, I read about things like infinities. Like I said, my interest in mathematics more is philosophical mathematics. So I read some of that stuff. I've read Kurt Gödel and some of these other guys.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah. So I do kind of have an interest in it. I have a variety of stuff I'll read, some fiction and things like that, but I don't know, nothing grabs me too much. I think Paul Meyer's books are interesting, Skeleton in God's Closet.
Yes,
those are really good. So,
he is wow, is he what a treasure to the LCMS, right?
Oh, yeah,
man.
Definitely.
What's your favorite Bible verse?
It's Romans 8:28. Because I didn't get confirmed as a kid, I felt, doggone it, I missed out on some. So I chose my own confirmation verse.
There you go.
And I love that one. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And what I like about it is the all things. And that, in other words, what I see is when God lets bad into my life, good into in other words, how I would judge it, he is going to work it all for good, no matter what it may be. And I saw that the painting you guys have that you referenced, of course, our granddaughter who is with the Lord, that I did there in the arms of Jesus. The whole idea of that is, you know what? I would have never touched that subject for a painting had that event not happened. My own daughter has talked about with me, that she has been able to witness to people because of what she went through with that as a Christian, to people that don't have the Christian faith. I just firmly believe this ain't, so much of the bad stuff that happens, it ain't about us, but it's about somebody else around us.
Yeah, in fact, she's given a powerful witness. I've been on the other end of that, and it's powerful.
Well, thanks, yeah. So anyway, that's my Bible verse.
What's your favorite? What was your favorite band, either now or growing up?
Oh, Pink Floyd.
Oh my goodness, really?
Oh yeah. No,
I used to listen to Pink Floyd too.
Oh, Pink Floyd and Alan Parsons Project.
I love Alan Parsons Project. Yeah.
Isn't that pretty wild?
Yeah. Alan Parsons Project is very unknown. People don't know about it, but it's so good.
Oh, they are great.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
man, I
definitely.
catch it. I catch some of the YouTube, videos of them too. There's they got the whole album on there. What was it? Where they were in Madrid, Spain, or something. Man, they put on quite a show there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy them. Some of the bands that are a little more unusual. I mean, some of their music is anyway. Those are the ones I tend to like the most.
What's your favorite movie?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and the reason why, well, like I said, I saw it when it first came out as a kid, and it just the artistry of it just
Yeah.
fascinated me. Moments of silence. Oh gosh, amazing what visual will do without words, and the
Right.
music is bizarre.
Yeah.
It's orchestratal, but it's kind of but it's like, oh, but it's weird.
I've heard people refer to 2001 as a visual tone poem, and a tone poem is a musical term of like a piece of music that kind of does experimental and it tries to create this image, and it's like this visual tone poem. It just it does. I mean, you think about 2001, you don't think about dialogue. You think about these amazing pictures that
Right.
movie makes. And it's just they're just burned into your brain too.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
fun movie,
Yeah.
fun movie.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, two last questions. Who is a
Okay.
pastor you looked up to?
Well, that would have probably been Allan Holtz. He was the first pastor that I knew. Like I said, he's the one that took me under the wing and showed me some things, and the one that challenged me. As far as that goes. Meeting Dr. Lewis Brighton at seminary, though, I want to talk about a pastoral
Yeah.
professor. It was Dr. Brighton. I mean, he was I saw him as a pastor to pastors.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated his knowledge, even though I gained probably more knowledge from men like Dr. Nagel and Dr. Veltz. As far as those guys were intense, and I loved it.
I'm so
I just
jealous
came
because
to,
when I got there, Nagel wasn't teaching much anymore. Neither was Vels.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, and Veltz, like I said, oh gosh, exegetics. Oh man, I just absolutely enjoyed him. But if I wanted to find a pastor, if I wanted really if I wanted somebody to educate me on a subject, I went to Nagel, I went to Veltz. But if I was having trouble and I just needed to talk to somebody, Dr. Brighton was the guy to go see.
yeah,
He had the heart, and that's just how he was, and yeah.
for me, I would say almost exactly the same. Vels is still teaching a little bit, and
Yeah,
a couple other, and Brighton actually is still teaching, very very limited wise. And not that he's not brilliant. Professor Gibbs,
right,
Professor Gibbs has wrote in the Matthew commentaries. He's brilliant, but he's the guy that if I need to talk to a pastor, he was the guy I would have
right.
went and talked to too. There's just some guys they just kind of exude that pastoral care.
They do that. I wish, I've seen Gibbs. I've been to a few of his presentations. I don't know if I had him for a class. He arrived sometime during the last couple of years I was there. So I don't know that I ever had the chance to engage him
Mm-hmm.
other than at conferences,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he seems like that kind of guy. He really does. I mean, I
Yeah.
wish I'd had a chance to have met him more. So, or, you know.
Well, I know you've got places to go and things to do. So, did you have any parting thoughts?
Well, not really. Thanks for asking me to engage in this and be a part of it. It's been fun to kind of revisit. I rehash history. A lot of times I'm not remembering all this stuff till like somebody asks and it's like, oh wow, okay,
I'm sure that along with your daughters, my whole congregation will really enjoy it. And like I said, I just the reason why I kind of started doing this is I realized that I know a lot of pastors who did not take the normal route to seminary that you would expect. And I think that's actually fantastic, and I think people should know about it and realize that I may have not done everything, according to Hoyle, but there's no reason why I
right,
can't necessarily go off and be a pastor at this point too, because our church
right.
sorely needs men to go off to the pastoral ministry. We need women to be school teachers and principals. We need church workers of all kinds. We really do.
Absolutely. If there's anything like you just said, it doesn't apply to the vocation pastor. Robert's Rules of Order. Yeah, there's times you wish it would apply, but it really don't.
That goes without saying.
Yes, it does. That's right.
Well, Pastor Reed, I thank you so much for your time today, and it's been a blessing. I hope your ministry. I'm sure that your ministry is a healthy one and a vibrant one. I pray that it continues to be that way, and the Lord's blessings in all that you do.
Well, thank you, and I pray for yours as well, Pastor Dreblo, that you would be just as blessed as I feel and continue to be blessed over the years you got ahead of yourself, okay?
Have a lovely day, sir.
You do the same. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
Mhm.